Evening, wherever you guys are around the world. Welcome to the Childcare Business Podcast. I am very excited today, not only because I have a very good friend of mine on, but actually we have a new book for you guys that I want to get Vernon to explain to you. So first of all, let me introduce the wonderful, amazing Vernon Mason. Vernon, thank you so much for being with us today.
Hey, so happy to be here. So happy to be with your people. I was with them the first time last year,
That's
CBG
it.
Live.
Yeah, July
And
last year.
it's the first time I was able to engage with them in person, and great people, really are great people. So I really enjoyed getting to know many of them, and have since interacted with many of them on social media and things like that. So yeah, cool. The childcare world, I feel like I was born into this world. I feel like it's in my DNA. And so childcare people are just my people. I just love them.
I know. Same here. Couldn't agree anymore. I think it's just a wonderful industry that deserves a lot more credit. So today we're going to be talking about, and I'm actually really excited to talk about this, is don't waste the crisis. So Vern, tell us, if you don't mind, give us a bit of an overview to the topic, first of all, around what we're talking about and why are we particularly talking about this right now?
Yeah, it was the very first keynote I ever was asked to do, probably 15 years ago. And it was first keynote, and it ultimately turned out to be a book, which I released end of last year. Shockingly, because Nick, I don't have a machine behind me. It's just me. I don't have representation. It's just me out doing my speaking engagements and sending an email here and there and posting on social media. And I was shocked that it went number one bestseller on Amazon in the self-employment section on Amazon. Hey, it just kind of happened accidentally. I was not expecting that. I have two other books on Amazon. They never hit number one, right? But people seem to be able to really relate to this book because it's personal and it's business. Because when you grow up in early childhood, as I did with my mom keeping children in my home, I couldn't tell the story. I couldn't tell the story without telling our past, without telling our history. And by no means is the book a woe is me. Are you going to walk away like, oh, geez, what in the world? It's inspiring. It's uplifting. It's not, look what I've done. It's like, look what we can together. What if you put your mind to it? If you focus on the right things, and I give lots of tips. They're mostly early childhood tips, but a lot of other small businesses have been reading the book and following the tips. There's lots of great tips in there. Everything from working with family to making sure that you have reserves, right, which is something that we're challenged to do in the early childhood field. Many of us run our early childhood businesses as if we are nonprofits, and there are nonprofits out there. No, I mean, that's wonderful if that's what you want to be. But I believe that if you're not a nonprofit, you have to run this like a real business, right? This is not a hobby. This is a very litigious field. You literally are holding the lives of these children in your hands. And we're not always, we can do everything we can to hire wonderful people, but sometimes a bad seed gets in.
Oh, yes.
And I want our owners and I want the people who run these companies to be prepared for the what if scenarios. Because I'm the kind of person that I believe if we prepare for the worst, the more we prepare, the less likely we are to need it, right? So
very good point.
That's kind of how I go at things. And so I want people to look at it, go, as I said, do you have reserves? Can you, if the news media winds up in your front yard of your child care center and you're on the news for not the right reason, can you sustain yourself, right? Can you come back from that? Can you hold through? Can you continue making payroll until things turn around or get better? And so a lot of that is discussed in the book.
I love that. So tell us, so obviously we all, as you say, there are lots of different challenges we have. It might be severe complaints on parents. It might be crises in terms of hurricanes. I know the stories you've shared with me in the past of some, unbelievable things that have happened through your career in the industry. So do you feel that generally most people aren't prepared for these things, and that's part of the issue why most people then unfortunately go out of business because they don't know how to deal with it? Or What's your
Yes,
thought on
they either go out of business or they linger in misery.
it?
Life is too short to linger in misery, right? We have to enjoy the day we have, because I had a cancer diagnosis last year, when I was actually speaking at CPG Live.
Oh
I
wow.
realized that I had been diagnosed with cancer, and so it gave me a reset. It was like, is this the life you really want to live? Is this what you really want to be doing? Because it gave me the perspective of, I better enjoy what I have, because you never know when that is done, right? So yeah, so we do. So you brought up the challenging parents. Parents can be a challenge, but again, what I see directors and owners do is they tolerate too much for too long. When
Yeah.
parents show you that they're a bad behavior, when they go on social media and bash you, they get from me, they get an email that says, I am so sorry you're very unhappy. Of course, we completely understand that, and Friday will be your last day, right? Because you're not going to come in my center and expect me to take good care of your child, and you go home at night and bash us. And most of the time it's over stupid stuff. There, once in a while, we do something that we deserve to get bashed, right? That we
Yeah.
make a mistake, an employee makes a mistake, and I will apologize profusely for things like that. But many times it's over stupid things,
Yeah.
right? In the big picture of things. And directors and owners will tolerate that, will go on for months, allowing this basically this parent to terrorize them, right? With
Yeah.
coming in complaining every day and bashing them. So heck no, you can either be here and like it and enjoy our time here, or you cannot. But you're not going to come in every day and interact with my staff and then go home and trash us on social media. That's just not that's not an option for me. So I say, don't allow yourself to be a punching bag, because
Yeah.
life's too short for that.
Do you mind me I know we didn't plan to touch on this, but I think it's really important. I think what some of the most successful people out there in business generally have been through multiple crises and have just been able to deal with them however they've dealt with them. But actually, as a result of that, every one of those crises has made them stronger and probably made them realize that actually it wasn't that big of a crisis at all. And when it comes around the next time, it's a lot more manageable. I know. Do you mind sharing just a quick overview of some of the things that you shared with me last time that have happened throughout your career in this industry?
Sure. We were in our very first location, and health department showed up, did lead test in our building, and we had lead paint all over everywhere. They gave us 30 days to relocate. Seemed impossible at the time, seemed overwhelming. We did it, right? We were able to relocate in 30 days. And I thought, oh my, it can never get any worse than that. We'll never say that, right? And then probably 9 or 10 years later, we'd moved to a larger location. We'd grown from 30 children to 125 children. We are on the east coast of the United States. We are kind of a bullseye for hurricanes. We had one hurricane come through one week, no damage, just a lot of rain. Within a week, another one came through. Again, a lot of rain, no water. They had raised the road in front of our center, doing an improvement, and inadvertently left my center and about a dozen other businesses. We were in a bowl, right?
Oh no.
And our center was totally underwater, submerged. So when I look back that we had 30 days to relocate the first time, now we had a matter of days, and we relocated in 3 days. And I look back now and I go, that was either God or the universe or somebody preparing me for what was coming. I actually look back at many of these crises that we've survived and become grateful for them. Had we not had the lead paint, I would have stayed in that location entirely too long. I would have stayed there. In our world, 30 children was not enough to maintain and to make a profit. It pushed me to go ahead and move, right? And the next location, we were at 125 when I rebuilt in a year, got a loan for what seemed like an astronomical amount. I remember going to sign the papers on the loan. And on the way there, that self-doubt settles in. I'm sitting at a stoplight going, how am I ever going to make that payment? It's 3 times the rent I was paying. Now this is my building. This is my loan. The mortgage is 3 times the rent. How am I going to make that? And it was very overwhelming. But we did it. The one thing, I'm not the brightest person in the room. I never have never been the person who thinks I know it all. I learn a lot from the people around me. But one of the smartest things I've ever done in my life is when I designed and built the new building, I didn't build it for 125. I built it for 250.
No.
And so we moved in there with the 125 children, and we grew it to 250 within 3 years. And that gave me a crash course master's doctorate in hiring, firing. I mean, I was hiring people so fast, children were coming in. And what I didn't realize, what I look back now, is I should have slowed up. So at that point, the crisis became enrollment. I was enrolling too fast. And I was so scared of not having enough children to pay the mortgage. I just kept taking them. I was literally doing job interviews going, well, thank you. Well, you'll accept a job. Well, thank you. We're happy to have you. What are you doing this afternoon? Right? Could you stay and cover our lunches today? Right? That's how I was doing job interviews. I don't recommend that, by the way, but that's just the reality that I lived in. But, I don't know if it's maturity, Nick, or if it's just being able to see the big picture. But you do know you get to a different place when you can look back at the crises you've survived, and you can see how it propelled you, and that you become grateful for those. And I absolutely have. Almost everyone. I did have the mindset, and I touch on this in the book. I did have the mindset for a while that something good comes out of all bad situations, and that's not necessarily the case. In most situations, you can make something good out of it. There are some things that good won't come out of, but anyway.
I love that. And do you think, as an industry as well, I think one of the biggest things I find is a lot of people suffer in silence, either because they worry about their status, they worry about what will other people think. Do you generally feel, as an industry, that people tend to suffer alone, and they don't actually ask for help, they don't get that support that they need?
It is game changing to join a peer group. It is game changing to join group coaching. It's totally game changing, because then you're no longer learning on your own and suffering in silence. You are gathering information from other people, and people will share. Our industry is so generous with their knowledge. People will share, hey, try this. This is what I did. I had that situation. Do this. Try that. It's amazing. So yes, people do suffer in silence, but it's because the people either don't know or aren't comfortable at joining peer groups or group coaching.
No, couldn't agree more. I love that. So let's start to give some people some tips there. So what would be your top 3 tips, Vern? Right now, there's a crisis going on. How do they deal with that? What are your tips that you would give them to get them started?
Well, I would say, I like to let's take it back to the basics. And that is maximize your revenue. And I have to clarify that, because people will bash me and say, Vernon's only about the profit. It's not about profit. It's about sustaining the high quality care you've been trying to provide over the years. But you need more revenue to do that. Everything costs more money now, right? You need to up your revenue game, right? So what does that mean? It means maximizing your classrooms. It means, do you have a group of toddlers with 10 toddlers in a classroom that has a capacity of 25? Then we need to look at putting a half wall in, adding some sinks, etc., and having 2 groups of toddlers in that classroom, right? And I get pushback. Directors will sometimes say, well, that's going to lessen the quality. No, it won't. No, it won't. If supervised well, if you hire the right people, if you train the right way, it can actually be better. You have more hands on deck, right? And there is such a thing as some classrooms being too big. It causes children to run and seem wild. We've all seen that scenario.
Yeah, of course.
The other thing I would say is literally look at the organization of your classrooms. I go into child care centers all the time. And of course, you go down the hallway and there's the infants, toddlers, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds. You turn the corner, here's the 4-year-olds and the school, right? Everything's got to be lined up. And we'll get to the pre-K or the 3-year-old room, and I'll notice it's a big room. It holds 25 or 30 children. And I'll say, how many children's enrolled? Oh, we have a dozen enrolled. We have 12 or 14-year-old. And I'm like, oh, well, is it just happens to be low right now? No, we haven't had this room at capacity in 3, 4, 5 years. I'm like, but you've got a huge waiting list in the toddlers, or a huge waiting list in the in the 2-year-old rooms. We need to rearrange our classrooms, right? Just because it used to be a school age room, or just because the school age rooms are the school age kids are the oldest children, doesn't mean they necessarily need the biggest room. Now, we don't want to change things around like that and make it look like you're punishing them. If you're going to move the school age kids to a smaller room because there's less of them, we need to make it really cool. We need to be very purposeful about it, right? We're making you guys this really cool summer camp or school age den or something, whatever. Not, oh, you guys are getting pushed in the storage closet because there's not enough of you, right? It's all on how you sell it, right?
Totally.
Yeah, so maximizing your revenue both of those ways, and as far as being able to enroll more children. The other thing I would say is making sure that you are charging absolutely as much as you can to parents. Many of us feel as if it is our personal obligation. I get directors say all the time, I feel like parents are paying as much as they can, or I feel like I can't charge anymore. Yeah. Who looks at their customers that way? Yes, there's a critical mass. Absolutely. You can double your rates and run yourself out of business, right? But increasing tuition $5, $10, $15, $20 a week makes a tremendous difference in the bottom line. So knowing what your competitors are charging, doing some competitive analysis, knowing what they're offering, knowing what they're providing to families, right? And how does that compare to you? How does your program compare? And you have to take an honest look at what you're offering. Is their building much nicer, much newer, right? Then you probably can't charge as much as they are charging, right? So there's lots of components to look at this, but just putting your head in the sand and charging what you think is right, it's never a good game plan, right? And if you don't have the kind of relationship with your competitors to call them and ask them, then get a friend to secret shop them, right? Get a friend to go in and find out, what are they giving out? What is their pamphlets? What is the information they're sending out even look like? What are they telling people they're doing? And then making sure that you're doing something different or something better, right? Making sure that what you're offering is something that children and families really want and need.
Do you mind if I touch on that one really quickly? There was actually a client we work with, and one of the things that they did, they actually doubled their rates, but halved the number of children that they looked after.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So their profit margin dramatically went up.
Yeah.
But so did the quality of care for the children.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the amount of times I've suggested that to people, and people are, I couldn't possibly do that. But actually, the whole concept of this 80-20 rule applies here. People, 20% will always be willing to pay more. Right. And it's really interesting to see that, that actually you reduce the numbers of children, but the quality of care. Private schools do that, particularly here in the UK, the numbers are half what you'd have in a normal school or public school, and they charge a huge amount of money for that. So absolutely. I hope you don't mind me adding that, because I think
I think that's great. Knowing your demographics is important. What's the market you're in, right? What's the income level that you're in? Your people, you can figure out what your people can, what the market is calling for. Andrea Majeski from Michigan, she's a friend of mine there, and she started what would you call it? Dynamic pricing. Started using dynamic pricing. So if she has an age group that has a significant waiting list, and I get this all the time, people say, oh, you can't get in my infant program for 2 years. I'm like, well, 2 years? They're not even pregnant yet. Then how that works? But anyway, and so she goes up. I mean, she doesn't go up on the children who are currently enrolled because she doesn't want to scare them to death, right? She goes up a typical amount on them. But the new people coming in, I mean, will go up like 20, 25%, 30% on those people, right? On the new people coming in. And again, all it takes is that 1 or 2 people coming in at the time, that within a year, your tuition in that infant program or whatever age group has now gone up 30%, right? Totally. So yeah. So I mean, that dynamic pricing is very. The other thing, let's talk about this that drives me crazy. I get it. People love a waiting list. They love to say, I've got a waiting list, got a waiting list, got a waiting. That's wonderful. I kind of call it a wasted list. That's where I go, because if someone goes on your waiting list in January and they need care, and you don't have an opening come up until September, they're going to find something else, especially if you can't give them a date. That drives me crazy when people say, and I do competitive analysis in my role now, and I call places all the time, and they'll say, yeah, call us back in the fall. And I'm just in shock. And these are
Right.
some of these are corporate, some of these are name brand, well-known organizations. And I'm like, do you realize you just, if I was a real customer, you just lost a customer, call you back in the fall, right? Or the call back when the director is here. What, when the heck is that? I mean,
Seen
so
that plenty of
right
times.
now you can go onto your class list. You can age those children up. I think Kangaroo Time Pro Care have a process where you can age those children up. You can put in there when your school starts in our area. Let's say it starts September 1st. You can change those dates of birth to age those children up to what age will they be September 1 of 2024. It's just as easy as going down and counting. Okay, well, September 1, 2024, all of these children will have left us and gone to kindergarten. We will be left with 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll go down and count. Okay, you're left with 17 4-year-olds, let's say. Your room holds 22. So so you've got 5 openings. I had to double check my math. So you've got 5 openings left, right? Go ahead and start charging a significant registration fee a week or 2 weeks or a month, again, depending on the market that you're in. You charge enough that they're not going to want to lose that, and you sell that program like your life depends on it, right? And you fill those slots. And it was my goal when I was running my company, that in mid-March that we would already be full when school started in August. That was my goal, because our goal was that our revenue did this slight incline from increases, right? That it didn't dip down in the summers, that it didn't dip down in the fall, that our goal was that our revenue just slightly had a slight incline all the time.
100%. I love the fact you've mentioned that, because I talk about this all the time. Avoid the summer drop. This whole concept around, it's seasonal. It's not. At the end of the day, babies are born every single month. Parents need to go back to work every single month. And their circumstances change. I couldn't agree more with you on that one. Do you know, I saw a post yesterday, actually. There was a parent talking about wait lists, and it was in one of the early years groups. And it was an owner said, hey, I've just had a parent come in, and I've told them there's a wait list. They were adamant they still wanted to come in for a tour. And they actually offered me a significant amount of money to jump the wait list. And she said how fascinating it was that this parent literally said, hey, I will do whatever it takes. What will it cost me to jump the wait list? Now, I'm not saying that that's the right methodology, but what I love is, Byron, what you're talking about here is that actually supply and demand, if you're in that situation, that's a great place to be. And, why not charge that premium? Because people will be prepared to pay it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Figuring out what works and what they're willing to pay, and to get enough out of them. I know that's not professional language there, but get enough out of them that they're willing not to walk away from it, that they are committed, right? Because if you've just charged just your regular registration fee and nothing else, people will walk away from $100 without blinking an eye. They will walk away from it, and then your numbers are really inflated, because some of those people are going to get settled where they are and not want to change. Now, one of the tricks that I did, and people have not been happy with this at times when I recommend this. One of the tricks I did for maintaining our enrollment through the summer was moved our pre-K graduation.
Okay. Yeah.
Many people have their pre-K graduation in May, right, or early June. And what happens when you have that graduation? The numbers drop off. Why do they drop off? Who goes back to school once they've graduated? Right. And many times it's even children who will leave who have been with you every summer since they've been born, right? But this is the summer they've graduated. You just send a very clear message, you're done, right? Yeah. And so we would postpone our graduation. Wouldn't postpone it. We moved our graduation. It took us about 3 summers. We would move it like from June to the end of June, and then the middle of July, and then ultimately we timed it just right that we We moved it to 2 weeks before the public schools started back, right? Because we needed space for the public school teachers to bring their children in 2 weeks before they went back. So it was all very strategic, right? And we moved that graduation to, like, in our area, it was like the second week of August, and that's when we had graduation. And we also did this. This was also over about 3 years, because we didn't want to get completely bashed on social media. But we also said, in order to participate in our graduation, which, let me tell you, we went all off the rails. We went great. It was big. We took pictures, and we had music, and it was in a church or somewhere, an auditorium. So it was big to do. But we also, what was I saying? I just thought.
With the graduation, you pushed it back as far as you could.
We did. Oh, yes. And so if parents did not want to stay, we wished them well, and we would give them a copy of their diploma, right? And say, we wish you well, right? But in order to participate in our big graduation celebration, you had to be enrolled until until graduation, right? You couldn't drop out in May and then pop back in for graduation. And many things that we did to try to push that. But the songs that they sang, they learned them during the summer, and we could say, oh, your kid doesn't know the songs, and whatever. But anyway.
And the other one is what we've done. I love that, what you just mentioned. We used to do Ready, Set, School as well. So it was kind of a preparatory program ready for that transition into school too, which, had a significant impact on getting some of those children ready for that next stage too. I love that. You shared some amazing nuggets already. Is there any other thoughts or ideas? Anything else? Any bonuses we want to share with everyone?
Yeah, don't let up on your hiring. The Bureau of Labor Statistics is saying that we are basically in forever labor shortage, meaning the percentage of the workforce, of people in the workforce, is going to continue to decline. They're less percentage of the workforce, and we need more people, but the actual percentage of people who are going into the workforce is less than it has been, and it's going to continue to decline. So people who are looking now are serious.
Yeah.
So take a hard look at your people. It might be trade up season. It might be, if you need one person, you need to be interviewing 3 or 6 people, right? And when people show you, your employees show you who they are, who can tell you who your weakest link is? Your strongest people, because they're working harder to take up the slack for your weak people.
Okay.
So that teacher that's calling in sick regularly, right? That doesn't have a legitimate issue, right? That's calling in sick regularly. It's the dog, it's the car, it's the cable, it's something all the time, right? Those people that push those people out and bring in some good people, but do it so strategically. Hire out of inspiration instead of desperation. Don't wait until you get mad and you fire the person, or don't wait until they just don't show up on you. They're at some point they're not going to come back, right? Go ahead and start hiring now. Get these people through their criminal background check. Get them trained, get them onboarded, get them bought in, so that you can make sure they're not going to ghost you. And then when you realize, okay, they're better than what I have, they're a great improvement, they're in it, they've been showing up for 2 or 3 weeks, let's go ahead and bring the teacher in, the weak link in, and let's go ahead and let them go. And again, wish them well. We wish you well, but it's just, you're not the right fit for us, right?
Yeah.
So hire out of inspiration instead of desperation, and don't wait until you get in a crisis.
Oh,
and
no,
you
totally
have to hire the next person that walks in.
Quick question to bolt onto that, if you don't mind. So
Yeah.
one of the common things or questions I see floated around art, I can't afford to pay what other centers are paying, and we see that a lot in the groups. What's your thoughts or ideas around that perspective? Because we touched on this earlier about raising your rates, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Do you just think it's the fact that people don't study their numbers enough to actually do that evaluation, to do that analysis? What's your thoughts around this?
If you're comparing apples to apples, meaning they're in your market, how are they paying that if you can't afford to pay that?
Totally agree.
What's the difference, right? Yeah. And then the other thing I would say, you pay absolutely much as you can. I believe in having a pay scale. I believe in having a career ladder where people know where you're going and people know what they can do to expect to make more money. And if many times I get this, and you probably do too, Nick, where people will say, I'm just a mom and pop. How do I compete with the corporate people? Right. You get that a lot. You can so compete with the corporate people, right? Because you're there. You make decisions. They don't have to wait. It doesn't have to go up through 8 different layers to come back with no explanation of a no, we can't do that. Right. You're there. You're engaged with these people. You're interacting with these people, even if it's not on a daily or a weekly basis. They know that you're there. You're visible. You're out. You're interacting with them. They can see you at events and things that are going on for your program, and you come across generous because you are generous. You're doing great things for your team and for your community because you want to become a community institution where people want to be. In the United States, that's called like the Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is running all the other fast food restaurants in the dirt because they are out giving back to their community. They are out doing so much self-promotion of the great things that they're doing. And our industry, we have to begin to do that also. Now, who's going to toot your horn other than you?
Oh no, I agree. We've actually got a couple of clients that are playing on that kind of concept. They're the Chick-fil-A of the industry. They are doing the same concept here. So, and I love that. You always add a huge amount of value, and what I love as well is that we both come from the industry. We know things. We know the challenges going on, and it's. I love that you have the same opinions around the family-run facilities as we do. That there is more than enough a place for them in the marketplace. There's always going to be those families that want to go to the family run. They don't want to go to the corporates. They want to be there. So there's plenty of opportunities, and I'm a big advocate for those family run centers. So Vernon, I honestly could talk to you all day about this, but one of the big things I want to encourage people to do off the back of this, if you haven't already got a copy of Vernon's book, you need to go and get one. What I'm going to do, I'm going to post down below for you guys the link to Vernon's group, to the actual book itself. So you can go and get this book on Amazon. I would highly recommend you go and check it out. I will be ordering one of these for every single one of our clients because I think it's a really important book, not only just from a point of view of running a childcare business, any type of business. It's talking about how to deal with a crisis in general. So make sure you can get a copy of that. What I'd love as well is show some love, show some appreciation for Vernon down below as well. If there are any follow-up questions, we understand lots of you are obviously teaching or running the business right now, so you'll be watching this later on today. But if there's any questions or thoughts or anything you want to ask us, tag myself and Vernon. We're obviously willing to help as always. Vernon, I am extremely grateful for you being here. I cannot thank you enough as always. It's a pleasure to have you here. So thank you once again for joining us.
Happy to be here. Happy to share with your people anytime.
Thank you, Vernon. We look forward to catching up with you again soon. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Show some love for Vernon. We will see you again soon. Bye for now.